Today we continue our series on the signs of the times. We'll give you an overview of the end times prophecy and give you a sneak peek at what could be the mark of the beast.
Plus, we'll give you a few of the more subtle signs of the end times and tell you how some of them are actually being fulfilled today. Pat?
Well, first in the news, rebel forces in Libya are still trying to gain control of the capital city of Tripoli. But what will happen if the rebels win? There's growing concern that radical Islam could gain a foothold in Libya. Heather Sells has this story.
The celebrations in Libya's capital of Tripoli have turned to uncertainty. Muammar Gaddafi's whereabouts are still a mystery, but many believe he's hiding somewhere in the city. In an interview earlier this year with ABC's Christiane Amanpour, the dictator said he would never run.
Leaders are calling on you to step down, to leave Libya, to leave your position of power. Will you do that?
Who would leave his homeland?
In another development, Monday, the rebel government claimed to be in custody of 3 of Gaddafi's sons. But then Saif al-Islam Gaddafi showed up at a hotel full of Western reporters and took them on a tour of the parts of the city still loyal to his father.
We are here. This is our country. This is our country. This is our people. And we live here and we die here.
Rebels now claim that Saif and his brother Mohammed escaped. Despite these minor setbacks, Gaddafi's 42-year reign still appears to be coming to an end. The U.S. is calling for an inclusive transition to democracy in Libya, but some are concerned that the end of Gaddafi could create an opening for Islamists to eventually take power.
One has to wonder how all this is going to end and whether there is a transitional government that could come into place right now that would be able to command respect and be able to govern efficiently. I'm not sure that that is something that's terribly easy to accomplish, and I think there's a lot of reason to be concerned at this moment.
While it's unclear who would take over in Libya, a draft constitution has emerged on the internet. The Heritage Foundation reports that draft includes this clause in Part 1, Article 1. Islam is the religion of the state, and the principal source of legislation is Islamic jurisprudence. It's unclear if it's authentic, but some of the rebels are known to be Islamic extremists.
Quite frankly, I think there's still a tug of war going on between, the fundamentalists, those who seek to, put in place an Islamist order, and those who want democracy. And so you're seeing it in Tunisia, you're seeing it in Egypt. I have a feeling we're going to see it, at least to a certain extent, in Libya.
For now, though, the world is applauding the closing chapter of Gaddafi's rule. Heather Sells, CBN News.
Well, be careful what you wish for. I think that what happened in Iraq is not a pleasant situation, and certainly what's happened in Iran is not pleasant. We helped unseat the Shah and applauded. We were going to get democracy. And the next thing you know, we got Ayatollah Khomeini. And they came in on the auspices of the Jimmy Carter administration from the United States of America. I think we've got to be very, very careful. And unfortunately, in Iraq, with all the money we spent in that country, we let them turn the country over to Islamists, and the Shias are pretty much in control of things, and they may link up with Iran. So what have we accomplished? Well, we've blown a lot of money, and we got rid of Saddam Hussein, but to what end? Be careful what you wish for. Lee Webb has the rest of our top stories from the CBN Newsroom. Lee?
Pat, Hurricane Irene is predicted to hit the Carolinas before the end of this week, and it could be a deadly Category 4 storm when it does make landfall. Irene packing 100-mile-an-hour winds as it moved across the Dominican Republic. It's left massive flooding and power outages in Puerto Rico. Preparations have begun on the East Coast. Weather Bell's Joe Bastardi tells CBN News that the Mid-Atlantic needs to brace itself.
In the Carolinas, look, I'm not going to pull any punches here. This is as bad looking as Isabel in 2003 and Floyd in 1999. Now, you folks that live there understand how strong Floyd was when it came ashore. What's different with this particular storm is Floyd weakened very, very quickly as it came north-northeastward, and we didn't have hurricane-force winds up through New Jersey and New England. We may indeed have a hurricane all the way to New England with this.
Pat, Joe Bastardi went so far as to predict that Irene will be destructive enough to have her name retired from the hurricane list.
Well, that is faint comfort for any of us. But, you know, I was in Charleston, Lee, when that terrible hurricane went through there. I was there after, of course. And I saw something I don't think I'll ever forget. The roof of one of the downtown businesses was made out of tin, and it had been crumpled together like you'd ball up a piece of writing paper and cast down to the ground. It was rolled up and thrown to the ground. That was how strong those winds are. Just cut the tops of trees, thousands of trees cut. It was a horrible scene of desolation, and the people suffered tremendously. So, again, this Irene is coming hard, and I don't know, it's aiming into Hatteras, aiming into the Carolinas, but you know, you never can tell what those things are going to do. So it behooves us to be ready, and it behooves us to pray. Lee?
A weak economy, but no recession in the next year. That's the forecast from an Associated Press survey of leading economists. They expect unemployment to remain high and consumer spending to stay weak. One economist says she used to call this a half-speed recovery. Now she says it's just a quarter-speed recovery. Analysts are also concerned that Europe's debt crisis could hurt the global financial system. Gold prices shot to another record high, above $1,900 before backing off today. A growing number of analysts are worried that gold has gone up too high, too fast, and they expect a correction. But they also say the long-term trend for gold remains higher. Gold has now become one of the most popular investments in the financial markets. Pat?
I've been telling people to buy the gold ETF. It's now the most popular ETF in the universe of these very popular stock, or I'm trying to think exactly what you call them, but they're stock conglomerations. And the gold ETF, which is GLD, is now has more money in it than any of the others. And I told you a long time ago that this was the way to go, and people who've gotten into gold have been very, very pleased with their investment. It may drop off a little bit, but get Dennis Gartman, who published the Gartman letter, and he lives in this area, a noted expert. He says gold is prepared, in his word, to go parabolic. And if that's the case, it could just go out of sight. So it's not yet a bubble, but it could be. Lee?
Because of its high value, gold is more popular among criminals. As Lori Johnson reports, police across the country are issuing warnings about gold theft.
The price of gold is almost $1,900 an ounce and still rising. Unfortunately, criminals are finding ways to get in on the gold rush. This video shows burglars smashing in a glass case at a jewelry store.
They see the dollar sign, and I think they're going for it and willing to take a lot more of a chance than they used to.
But it's not just jewelry stores that are at risk. Police warn that criminals are targeting people wearing gold as well. In this security footage, a blind woman is attacked. She was wearing a gold chain worth about $100. The thief ripped it right off her neck. In Phoenix, police are looking for a man who's targeting high school girls. He engages them in a conversation before snatching their gold necklaces.
When you're wearing jewelry like that, you've got to really make sure you're not putting yourself in a position where the wrong guy is going to walk up and snatch your necklace.
It's over in a matter of seconds, but it's still terrifying for everyone.
Police say that women are generally the ones targeted. They suggest that if people are wearing gold jewelry, they tuck it under their clothing. Lori Johnson, CBN News.
The FCC has taken the fairness doctrine off the books. The outdated policy had not been enforced for more than 2 decades. Liberals have tried to bring it back. It forced television and radio stations, though, to give equal time to all opposing viewpoints. Religious broadcasters objected to it because it could have forced them to air views contrary to their biblical beliefs. The head of the FCC says the fairness doctrine holds the potential to chill free speech and the free flow of ideas. Striking this from our books ensures there can be no mistake that what has long been a dead letter remains dead. New York City's mayor pushes for red light cameras now at every street corner. Michael Bloomberg says the move will help prevent accidents and save lives, and according to the New York Daily News, it will also generate revenue. Right now, the city has 150 red light cameras. Last year, those cameras brought in about $55 million in fines. Bloomberg wants to increase the number of cameras to 225. The mayor says the city cannot afford to put a cop on every corner and that New York needs to take advantage of the technology. But just a few weeks ago, Pat, you'll recall that we were airing a story about the fact that Los Angeles is trying to get rid of those red light cameras.
Well, Lee, they're terrible. It's just awful to think Big Brother is staring down at you. They have sure gone overboard in London. I think there's a camera on every corner recording everything you do.
A new study suggests that a nation founded on faith may now be wavering in it. A Duke University professor says his research shows America's religious beliefs are growing weaker. Dr. Mark Chaves, author of Congregations in America, says his extensive study reveals a decline in religious practices and church attendance. He writes about numerous research projects on faith and religion. One report shows people answering none for their religious preference has risen from 3% in 1957 to 14% in 2000. That study also showed the number of people attending weekly services dropped from 40% in the 1960s to 25% in the 1990s. A U.S. judge has sentenced 2 Somali men to life in prison for hijacking a yacht and killing 4 Americans on board. 11 Somali pirates have now pleaded guilty in the case. Back in February, Jean and Scott Adam were using their yacht to deliver Bibles around the world along with 2 friends. It was their lifelong dream to use their boat to spread the gospel. The missionaries were killed days after being taken hostage nearly 300 miles off the Somali coast. Well, you can always get the latest from CBN News by going to our website at cbnnews.com.